Safe choices cost you your destiny because they keep you in a place where comfort feels like progress. But in reality, nothing changes and nothing grows. Every time you choose the safe route, you convince yourself that at least you are secure, at least you are stable. But deep down you know that safe has no reward, safe has no breakthrough, and safe has no legacy. Safe is a disguise that looks like wisdom, but it's really fear dressed up to look like logic. When you play it safe, you are telling life that you are willing to settle for less than what you were created for. The truth is, greatness never comes from staying inside the lines, and destiny never shows up at the doorstep of comfort. Think about it. The greatest stories you've ever heard, the most successful people you've ever admired, the most inspiring moments in history were never born from someone who chose the easy way out. They all had to take risks, they all had to put something on the line, and they all had to be willing to lose in order to win. Playing it safe feels good for a moment, but it steals the future you've been dreaming of. The job you hate but refuse to leave because you're scared of failure, that's safe robbing you. The dream you keep putting off because you don't know how it will all work out, that's safe holding you hostage. The ideas you bury inside because you're worried about what people will think, that's safe stealing your voice. Safe isn't harmless, safe is dangerous because it convinces you to accept a life you don't even want. Safe makes you forget that you are powerful. Safe keeps you average when you were designed to be extraordinary. Safe whispers, don't try, you might lose. But what it doesn't tell you is that by not trying, you've already lost. Every day you stay in safe, you trade destiny for regret, and regret is the heaviest weight a person can carry. You don't want to wake up 10 years from now realizing that you never gave yourself a chance to see what could have been. You don't want to look back wishing you had been braver, wishing you had taken that leap, wishing you had trusted yourself enough to go after it. Destiny is on the other side of risk. It's waiting for the moment you decide that your dream matters more than your fear. It's waiting for the moment you decide that comfort will not hold you prisoner anymore. Destiny requires courage, it demands boldness, and it rewards those who are willing to step into the unknown. Safe won't ever introduce you to your full potential, because potential only shows up when you stretch yourself past the limits of what feels easy. Safe choices keep you surrounded by the familiar, but the familiar is not where transformation lies. The familiar will keep you in the same city, the same circle, the same patterns, and the same excuses. But destiny is calling you to expand, to grow, to take the kind of step that scares you because that step is the one that leads you to the future you've been imagining. You can't expect extraordinary results from ordinary decisions, and playing it safe is the most ordinary decision you can make. When you choose safe, you silence your own dreams. You tell yourself stories like, I'm not ready, I'm not good enough, I don't have the resources. But the truth is you are just afraid of failing. Failure is not the end. Failure is the tuition you pay for success. Every failure carries a lesson, and every lesson gets you closer to the place where destiny lies. Safe tries to protect you from failure, but what it really does is protect you from growth. The life you want, the one you secretly think about when nobody is around, is not waiting in safety. It's waiting in bold decisions. It's waiting in risks that make your heart race. It's waiting in opportunities that scare you because they are bigger than you. That's where destiny lies, not in the shallow waters of comfort, but in the deep end where you can't see the bottom, but you trust that you were built to swim. Safe choices give you control, but destiny requires surrender. Safe makes you believe you're in charge, but destiny is about faith, about believing in something bigger than you. Safe choices say, I'll do what's reasonable, but destiny says, I'll do what I was created for. Safe choices keep you small, destiny requires you to rise. Every time you settle for safe, you bury a piece of your calling. You bury the version of yourself that could have been more, that could have done more, that could have lived a life worth remembering. Safe convinces you to keep that version locked away, but destiny is screaming to be unleashed. Safe will always cost less in the short term, but in the long run it will cost you everything. Safe takes away the chance to discover who you really are, what you're really capable of, and how far you could really go if you only had the courage to take the leap. Your leap of faith unlocks your future because the life you're dreaming about will never show up if you don't step out of the place you've been standing in for too long. Faith is not comfortable. Faith is not logical. Faith is not about having everything figured out. It's about moving forward even when you can't see the whole picture. When you leap, you're telling life, I trust that there's more waiting for me than what I can see right now. That leap is the bridge between where you are and where you're supposed to be. Without it, you stay stuck in the same cycle, wishing, hoping, praying, but never experiencing. The leap is what separates dreamers from doers, and it's what turns visions into reality. Most people never take the leap because they're waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect resources, the perfect plan. But there will never be a perfect moment. Perfection is an illusion designed to keep you still. The leap of faith is not about waiting until everything makes sense. It's about jumping even when nothing makes sense, because you know deep down that you were not created to live a life of almost. The fear of falling will always be there, but what if instead of falling you learn how to fly? You won't know until you take that step. Your future is not unlocked by playing it safe. Your future is unlocked by daring to believe that you are capable of more. Faith requires risk, and risk requires courage. The leap is scary because it strips away control. It makes you admit that you don't have every answer, but it also forces you to believe that the answers will reveal themselves once you move. Standing still might feel secure, but it's actually the riskiest choice of all because it guarantees that nothing changes. The leap is what propels you into growth, into opportunities, into doors that don't even exist yet. Think of every major achievement in life. It always starts with a leap. The leap to start that business when everyone told you it would fail. The leap to pursue that dream when nobody else saw it. The leap to leave behind what's familiar and walk into the unknown. The people who live the lives we admire aren't the ones who had it all figured out. They are the ones who jumped before they knew how it would work out. That's the secret of faith. It doesn't promise clarity before the leap. It promises clarity after. Your leap of faith is the evidence that you believe in your future more than you fear your failure. Fear will always try to convince you to stay where you are, because fear hates movement. Fear loves stability, even if stability is killing your soul. But faith whispers that there's something better waiting for you if you just trust enough to move. The leap is the act of giving yourself permission to pursue the life you know you were meant to live. And once you leap, you begin to see doors open that you never knew existed. The leap won't always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like walking away from a paycheck to chase a dream. Sometimes it looks like leaving behind relationships that are holding you back. Sometimes it looks like starting over when everyone thinks you've already failed. But every time you leap, you get closer to the person you were created to become. The leap is never wasted because even if you stumble, the ground you land on will teach you something that standing still never could. Your future isn't waiting for your doubts, it's waiting for your decision. It's waiting for you to say, I may not know how, but I know why. The why is always bigger than the how. When you leap, your why will carry you through the storms, through the setbacks, through the voices that tell you to quit. Faith doesn't guarantee an easy road, but it guarantees a meaningful one. It guarantees that every step you take will move you closer to the vision you've been carrying in your heart. The leap of faith also unlocks parts of you that you never knew existed. It forces you to tap into strength you didn't know you had, creativity you didn't know was in you, resilience you didn't realize you could carry. Safe living never calls those things out of you, but a leap demands it. And once you discover those parts of yourself, you never go back to being the same. That's the beauty of faith. It transforms you in the process of chasing what you believe in. Your leap of faith unlocks your future because the act of jumping is the act of trust, and trust is what life responds to. When you leap, opportunities notice you, people are drawn to you. Resources begin to align with you, not because everything magically becomes easy, but because faith has a way of attracting what you need. The moment you leap, you activate momentum, and momentum creates movement toward your destiny. Every day you delay your leap, your future waits a little longer. Every day you stay in hesitation, the door to your next chapter stays closed. The leap is not just about getting to the destination. It's about proving to yourself that you are willing to do whatever it takes to live fully. You can dream, you can plan, you can hope, but nothing changes until you jump. And when you finally do, you'll realize the leap was the key you've been holding all along, the key that unlocks the future you've been waiting for. Impossible is just possible waiting for belief, because the only thing standing between you and the life you dream of is the way you think about it. The word impossible is not a wall, it's a test. It's life asking you, do you believe enough to keep going when the odds are stacked against you? Every breakthrough in history, every invention, every success story started with someone who looked at something impossible and refused to accept it as the final answer. They chose to see beyond the obstacle and believe that if they worked, if they fought, if they trusted, the impossible could bend into possible. The truth is, impossible is just a label given by people who gave up too soon. It's a label created by fear, by doubt, by the voices that want to keep you small. But belief has the power to erase that label. Belief doesn't make the road easier, belief makes you stronger. When you believe, you start to see opportunities where other people see dead ends. You start to see solutions where other people see problems. Belief is the lens that changes the entire picture, and once you put it on, nothing looks the same. Impossible often shows up in your life disguised as challenges too big for you. It shows up as doors that seem locked, as mountains that seem too high, as dreams that feel too far away. But those impossibilities are not there to stop you. They're there to stretch you. They are there to see if you'll grow into the person who can handle the very thing you're asking for. What you call impossible today will one day be your testimony of what belief can do. Belief is the seed and impossible is the soil. Without the seed, the soil stays barren. Without belief, the impossible stays impossible. But once you plant that belief deep inside and refuse to let anyone uproot it, you begin to see movement. Doors crack open, connections appear, strength rises up in you that you didn't know you had. Belief unlocks resources that doubt could never reach. It gives you the courage to start, the persistence to continue, and the resilience to rise again when you fall. Think about the dream you've been carrying, the one that feels so out of reach that you sometimes laugh at yourself for even thinking about it. That dream only feels impossible because you haven't fully believed it yet. The moment you switch from maybe to it's mine, everything begins to align differently. Belief doesn't mean you know every step. It means you trust that the steps will show up as you move forward. Belief is the bridge between what is and what could be. People will try to hand you their version of impossible. They will tell you it's too late, you're not qualified, you don't have enough, you don't come from the right background. But their impossible is not your truth. Their limits don't define your destiny. When you believe, you break out of the box they tried to put you in, and you show them that what they thought couldn't be done was just waiting for someone bold enough to do it. Impossible isn't a fact, it's an opinion. It's a temporary condition that crumbles under the weight of consistent faith. There was a time when flying was impossible until belief created airplanes. There was a time when talking across the world in seconds was impossible until belief created phones. There was a time when surviving the challenges you've already been through seemed impossible, but here you are. If you survived that, what makes you think you can't conquer what's ahead? Belief turns your scars into strength and your doubts into determination. The reason impossible scares people is because it demands belief bigger than logic. Logic says play it safe. Belief says go anyway. Logic says you can't do that. Belief says watch me. Logic calculates the odds, but belief creates new outcomes. Impossible doesn't bow to logic, it bows to belief. That's why the dreamers who dare to believe are the ones who change the world, while the doubters sit on the sidelines. Impossible is simply waiting for someone like you to stop rehearsing the reasons why it can't work and start living the reasons why it will. It's waiting for someone bold enough to stop seeing obstacles as stop signs and start seeing them as stepping stones. Belief makes you resourceful, it makes you creative, it makes you persistent. When you believe, you refuse to quit, and when you refuse to quit, impossible has no choice but to move out of your way. Belief doesn't just change the outcome, it changes you. It makes you think bigger, act bolder, and push harder. It forces you to grow into the kind of person who can handle the blessing on the other side of impossible. Without belief, you shrink back and settle. With belief, you rise up and expand. Belief is what transforms a regular life into a remarkable one. Impossible only stays impossible until someone decides to believe. Once belief enters the room, the game changes. Once belief grabs hold of your heart, your actions shift, your words shift, your energy shifts. You no longer talk like a victim, you talk like a victor. You no longer walk like someone defeated, you walk like someone destined. That shift is what opens doors, attracts opportunities, and draws miracles into your path. The life you want, the vision you've been carrying, the dream you've been hiding inside, it's not impossible. It's just waiting for you to believe enough to go after it with everything you've got. Impossible bends when belief stands tall. Impossible breaks when belief refuses to back down. Impossible turns into reality when belief becomes action, and that is how your future is unlocked. You were created to shine and leave a legacy because there is something unique inside you that the world has never seen before and will never see again once you are gone. You weren't put on this earth just to exist, to go through the motions, to pay bills, and fade away unnoticed. You were designed with purpose, equipped with gifts, and positioned with potential that is waiting to be unlocked. Deep down, you've always felt that nudge, that whisper, that pull inside telling you there's more to your life than what you're currently living. That voice is not your imagination. It is the truth of who you really are trying to break free. You were not created to blend into the background. You were created to stand out and light the way for others. Shining doesn't mean you have to be famous. It doesn't mean you have to be rich. It doesn't mean you have to be known by the world. Shining means living at your full capacity, refusing to shrink yourself down just to make other people comfortable, refusing to bury your talent because you're scared of judgment, refusing to dim your light because others can't handle its brightness. Shining is about being unapologetically you, walking in your gifts and using them to make an impact on every person you encounter. Your shine is not about ego, it's about service. When you shine, you give others permission to believe that they can shine too. Leaving a legacy means you are intentional about what you're building with your life. It means you think beyond yourself, beyond your moment, beyond your lifetime. A legacy is not just money or material possessions. It's the stories you leave behind, the inspiration you give, the lives you touch, the love you spread, the seeds you plant that grow long after you're gone. Every action you take, every word you speak, every choice you make is shaping the legacy you leave. The question is, are you building one worth remembering? Too many people settle for a small existence because they don't realize they were created for more. They bury their light under fear, under doubt, under comfort, under excuses. But life is not waiting for you to feel ready. Life is calling you to step into your shine now. Your legacy won't start tomorrow. It starts today in how you live, how you love, how you give, how you show up. Every moment you spend afraid to shine is a moment you rob the world of the gift you were created to be. You were not given your personality, your creativity, your skills, your voice, your vision by accident. Those things are fingerprints of your purpose, clues to your destiny. If you hide them, you're not just playing small, you're denying the world the light it needs. Somewhere out there, somebody is waiting for your story, your invention, your song, your book, your courage, your leadership, your example. Your shine could be the very spark that saves someone else from giving up. Legacy doesn't come from doing everything perfectly. It comes from living authentically. People won't remember you for never failing. They'll remember you for how you kept standing after the fall. They won't remember you for having all the answers. They'll remember you for having the courage to take the journey anyway. Your legacy is written in your resilience, in your kindness, in your integrity, in your determination to live fully no matter what life throws at you. To shine is to accept that you carry greatness inside of you. It's to stop apologizing for your ambition, to stop hiding your ideas, to stop watering yourself down. Greatness is not arrogance, it's responsibility. It's realizing that the gifts you've been given are not just for you. They are for the people you are meant to bless with them. When you shine, your family is elevated, your community is impacted, and your name carries weight beyond your years. That is how legacy is built, not in one big moment, but in the consistent decision to live boldly every single day. The fear of failure often keeps people from shining, but failure doesn't tarnish your legacy, quitting does. Every time you push through fear and keep going, you polish your shine brighter and brighter. Every time you take a risk on yourself, you write another line in the story you're leaving behind. Shining is not about avoiding the dark, it's about being the light in the middle of it. Legacy is not about perfection, it's about persistence. The truth is, you were created with a light so powerful that no circumstance, no setback, no opinion can extinguish it unless you hand them the power to. That light is your gift, and when you let it shine, you inspire, you uplift, you create hope. That light becomes your legacy because long after people forget the details of your life, they will remember how you made them feel, how you encouraged them, how you gave them permission to believe in themselves again. Shining is about courage and legacy is about impact. When you combine the two, you live a life that matters. You don't just pass through time, you transform it. You don't just survive, you influence. You don't just exist, you live in such a way that your name carries echoes long after you've taken your last breath. That is what you were created for. That is why you were given the gift of life. That is why you must stop hiding, stop doubting, and stop settling. You were created to shine and leave a legacy. Change begins when you stop wishing and start working, because wishing is nothing more than a dream without legs. And a dream without action will never move forward. Wishing feels good for a moment, it gives you hope, it gives you a picture of what could be, but it never takes you anywhere by itself. Wishing without work is like staring at seeds in your hand and expecting a harvest without ever planting them. Work is the water that makes those seeds grow. Work is the evidence that you truly want what you say you want. Wishing says someday, but work says today. Every person has wished for something greater in life. More success, more peace, more love, more opportunities. But the difference between those who create that life and those who never see it is not the size of the wish, it's the size of the work. Wishing for change doesn't make change happen. It's the consistent actions, the small steps taken every day that build the bridge from where you are to where you want to be. The future you want is not waiting for a miracle. It's waiting for your discipline, your commitment, and your persistence. You can wish for better health, but until you start eating differently, moving your body, and taking care of yourself, nothing changes. You can wish for financial freedom, but until you learn to save, invest, and create new streams of income, nothing changes. You can wish for your dream career, but until you put in the hours to learn, to practice, to push past rejection, nothing changes. Wishing keeps you in your imagination, but working pulls that vision into reality. The truth is, most people confuse wishing with faith. They think that just wanting it badly enough will make it happen. But faith without works is empty. True belief shows up in action. When you really believe something belongs to you, you work for it like it's already yours. You don't sit around waiting for a perfect opportunity. You create the opportunity through sweat, sacrifice, and determination. Wishing is passive, working is active. Wishing waits, working moves. Wishing watches, working builds. Wishing hopes, working achieves. And the moment you shift from wishing to working, you take back your power. You stop leaving your life in the hands of chance, and you start taking responsibility for the outcome. That shift is where change begins. Think about all the times you've told yourself, I want to change my life. You wished for it, you thought about it, maybe you even prayed for it, but the change didn't come. That's because change doesn't respond to words alone, it responds to effort. Change listens to the hours you put in when no one's watching, the sacrifices you make when nobody else understands, the discipline you apply when it's inconvenient. That's when the universe, God, or whatever you believe in begins to align with you, because your actions prove that you're serious. Wishing is easy. Anybody can wish. It costs nothing, it requires nothing, it risks nothing. That's why most people never move past it, but working is hard, and that's why it's rare. Working costs you comfort, it costs you excuses, it costs you the luxury of blaming others. But it also pays you with progress, it pays you with confidence, it pays you with transformation. The people who change their lives are not the ones who wished harder, they are the ones who worked harder. You don't need to know every step before you begin. You don't need to have the entire plan figured out. What you need is the willingness to start, the discipline to continue, and the courage to push through resistance. Work reveals the path as you go. Every day you show up, you get clearer, you get stronger, you get closer. But if you keep wishing without moving, you'll be in the same place a year from now, wondering why nothing has changed. Change begins the moment you pick up the pen and write, instead of just wishing to be an author. Change begins the moment you show up at the gym, instead of just wishing for health. Change begins the moment you invest in yourself, instead of just wishing for success. Change begins the moment you start building, creating, risking, failing, and trying again. Work may not bring instant results, but it brings momentum, and momentum is what carries you into transformation. Working doesn't mean it will be easy. It doesn't mean you won't get tired, frustrated, or discouraged. But it does mean that you'll have something to show for your effort. It means that each day you'll be one step closer to the life you want. Wishing only gives you comfort in the moment, but working gives you progress in the long run. When you stop wishing and start working, you stop waiting for someone else to save you. You stop waiting for circumstances to change, for luck to show up, for life to hand you a break. You realize that the power has been in your hands all along. That realization is freedom, because it means you are no longer a victim of what could be. You are the creator of what will be. Change is not magic, it's momentum. It's not about one giant step, it's about many small ones. Every bit of work compounds, every effort builds on the last, every consistent action stacks up until one day you look back and realize you've become the person you once only wished you could be. That transformation is waiting for you, but it won't begin until you decide to put in the work.